What is up, guys? Welcome back. And today I'm going to go over your characters that you want in Injustice 3. I'm only focusing on guest characters and the ones that are not from Mortal Kombat simply because we know they're coming. It's not a surprise. And I don't find it very fun to speculate about them. And none of them from Disney or companies that are very difficult to work with. Also, I'm not doing any repeats from any of my videos that I did before. And these are all your comments. I'm also not going to be saying who said what, simply because I don't know how you feel about having your name in the video, whether you wanted credit or if you'd rather not. So I just have a full list. When you hear yours, you should know it. I took out a few for the sake of time and also if there are any of the things I mentioned before. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first character I have is Ruby Rose or Team Ruby, either one. This is actually interesting because the day before this recording, I went and watched the Death Battle episode of her, and I actually didn't know anything about her. So it was really cool to see. And yeah, I think she would actually fit very well into this game. I think you could take her scythe and make it into a stance mechanic where she can switch between that and her like sniper rifle type thing. And you could have really cool moves from that. And like her whole silver eye flash could be your super move. So yeah, I think there's a lot you can do with it. I don't think putting the entire team into the game is necessary. I think she has a full enough moveset on her own. So I would rather them just focus on the one character. But again, I've never seen the show. So if there's enough between the four of them to make it like way, way better, if they're all together, I'd be fine with that too. But that's just an outside perspective of it. Then we have Sonic. And this one's kind of interesting because Sega is the type of company who will list out Sonic to just about anyone. It doesn't really matter. Fall Guys, Nintendo, just whatever. So I could definitely see him being in this game, but he's just way too short to be able to work well in this game. So I just don't think that he would work well. Also, we already have the Flash, so having two speedsters when the DC itself already has a ton of other popular speedsters that you could put in this game would just kind of be weird. If they're going to pick one character for this game, I'd rather it be Dr. Eggman. He would just have a lot more interesting moveset, and he's not in Smash, so it'd be something different. So that's just my thought. Then we have Mega Man and Ryu. These are characters from Capcom games, and if there was going to be a character from Capcom to get into this game, it would have to be one of those two. If you would say Mega Man is too short, just put X from Mega Man X in there. They're the same character, and you can't convince me differently. Anyways, if Ryu was going to be put in a game made by NetherRealm, it would have to be either this or a dedicated Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat game. And that would just make way more sense because he's not a very violent character. And Capcom doesn't like to put them in like super violent games, so they're not going to put him in Mortal Kombat. But he would fit perfectly fine here. As far as likelihood, I don't think it's super likely, but I could maybe see it. I just think there are better options for them to be in other games where NetherRealm is working on it. Next is Blue Falcon from the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and I don't know much about this guy, but I think he could be a fun character that you could use as a summon fighter to call out other characters like Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, people like that, just for some fun. I think he could fit, and also all those characters are owned by Warner Brothers, so you don't have to pay anything to use them. But I think he may be a little bit too goofy for DC, personally. Then we have a character named Sebastian Costanello. This is a character from a horror survival game, and while it's not a bad pick, I think you could do some cool stuff with them. I would just think if you're gonna pick a main character from a series like that, I would rather you just pick Leon Kennedy or Chris Redfield from Resident Evil. I just think they would fit much more better into this game, and they're much more well known. So not a bad pick, just not one that the company would go with. Then we have Joel from The Last of Us, and he's not a bad character, but like he would fit well moveset wise, but that entire series is mostly meant to be like very story driven, like a sad type of story. So it doesn't really fit well in fighting games. Then we have Goku, and I think that it would be very cool to see him in here, and I think he fits in this game better than Mortal Kombat, just because as crazy and over the top the um, Dragon Ball series is, they're much more like destroy everything with laser beams, much more than they are like breaking arms and that type of stuff. So, as far as that sense, I think it would fit better in the DC universe, but I just don't think Injustice 3 would be the game where Dragon Ball makes the jump into guest characters and something else. If anything, it'd be Smash Bros. Or Street Fighter or something like that. Or even another Arc System games like the Marvel Tokon that comes out next year. So I just don't think that this would be the game for that jump to happen. Then we have Jason Bourne, and I do love Jason Bourne. He's a cool character and all that, but I think if you're gonna go with a spy type character, you have to go with James Bond. He's the most popular like spy from all the films, and he has so many more moves that you could use and tons of awesome costumes. They would definitely go with the Roger Craig version, like because that's the most recent one. But even still, I think Jason Bourne is a cool character, but there's not too much to do moveset wise there compared to James Bond, who has tons of gadgets and cars and crazy stuff. But that's also coming with the benefit of like 25 movies or something compared to all 4 that Jason Bourne has. So I don't know. Then we have Neo, and this one I think is very likely because Warner Brothers does own that franchise, and you could do a lot of cool stuff with like the guns and then the like bending backwards, like slow time down type thing, where you can make him like very agility focused with tons of parries and dodge attacks and stuff like that. So I think it'd be cool. I don't see him being super likely, but I would love to see him in the game. Next, we have a character named Rose Corley from the movie Skyline. I've never actually seen this movie, but from the little bit of reading that I had on her, she seemed a lot like Blue Beetle, where she can like use tech to change her arms into other things and kind of control tech like Arcade from Marvel. So I think that could be cool. If they don't bring back Blue Beetle, I think that would be really cool to just give her moves that are like what she is in this movie, and then a few moves similar to Blue Beetle. I think that could be cool, but if you're gonna already have Blue Beetle, I think her powers are too similar to his to be in the same game. Next, we have Sadler from Resident Evil 4, and this is just a random boss, I assume. I've not actually played RE4, but my question would be, why would you not just put Nemesis in there? I'm sure he's a cool character, but I think if they're gonna pick a Resident Evil fighter, like a villain, it would be Nemesis because people know him, or even Wesker. Next is Alex Mercer, and I think this is a really good pick. I like this character a lot. He looks a lot like Venom to me. He has similar powers, but he's not as like monstrous, I guess. He has some really cool like infection powers and things like that. So I think if you added him, that'd be really cool. I think he'd be more likely for a Mortal Kombat game, but I don't think he's too likely for either. Just because he's done nothing in the past 10 plus years. He hasn't had a game since the PlayStation 3 era. So if they came back with a new game, I could see him being in here, but not until then. Next is Melania from Elden Ring, and I don't know much about this character, but with all the different weapons and crazy things that you can do in that game, like the dodges, and knowing how intense those boss battles can be, I think she would be fun in here. But I think they'd go with someone more popular from the game, like the main character, but he might not actually like have a name, so I think that's a good pick. Next is a character named Jacob Lee from Correlation Protocol. I think I'm saying that right. And it seems like a very cool game. He seems like he'd be fun in Injustice, but the thing with him is like, I looked at some stuff about the game, and it just seemed to me like Dead Space, which is a much more popular space horror aliens type thing. So it's like, why would you just not take Isaac from that game. It would seem a lot more fitting, I suppose, but not a bad pick. Um, Next is Solid Snake, and I could definitely see this one. He's very combat focused. I could see him fighting similar to Sonya Blade and Rambo, but have a lot more like stealth types of things, maybe even a camouflage mode. And that's something we don't really have in the Injustice series, so I think that could be cool. I don't know how willing um, PlayStation will be to let them use him, but I don't know. I'd like to see him in there. Next is a character named Marv from Sin City. And I didn't know anything about this character, so I went and looked up some stuff. And I actually think this would be a really deep, underrated cut. And basically, he's similar to Tombstone from Marvel, where he's like completely pale, he's super muscular, and has like impenetrable skin or something like that. And he's like a mob boss, or he's like a hero in a mob boss city. The reason I think it could be really cool is that all of his comic books are like in a very modernized black and white style. So if you put him in this game but kept him black and white, with like a little bit of a comic booky or that type of look, that could be really cool compared to the rest of the characters who look very photorealistic. So I think that's a cool idea. His moveset may not be super deep, but for the cool stuff you could do with the visuals, I think it'd be a great idea. So thank you for that deep cut. Next is Jago from Killer Instinct, and I don't hate this idea. I would love to see a KI character in a NetherRealm game, but I think if you're gonna do that, it has to be Mortal Kombat because the characters are not as bloody. You know, they don't have over the top crazy finishers, but there is a decent amount of blood in those games as well. And I just think that they fit those aesthetics much better. Um, Also, I think there are better choices than Jago. Jago is fine, there's nothing wrong with them. But he's halfway between Sub-Zero and Ryu, and you could just take one look at him and say, oh, that's who that is. So he's not very unique in my opinion, so I think other characters like Kilgore or Spinal or even the Raptor would be even better choices in my opinion. Next is Master Chief. I think he could definitely fit in this game, especially because Injustice is more of a zoner focused game. And a lot of people don't like those games because of it, but it is the nature of how superheroes usually fight. So I think having him in this game would fit very well, especially because a lot of people that have asked for Doomslayer in Mortal Kombat before, and I think Master Chief just would not fit as well into that world, but he would fit very well into the Injustice setting, so I think I'd be fine with that. Next is Rash from the Battletoads, and I think he is very fun. I think he could be in this game and work well, but he was already in Killer Instinct from 2013, and he was done very well in that game. I just don't see a reason to put him in something else. Um, Especially because he's an Xbox owned character, so it makes more sense for him to be in an Xbox exclusive fighting game. You can do a lot with him because he's a cartoon character, so to speak. But so there's plenty of moveset potential that you could do. I just think there are better choices. If they were going to do it, I would want them to combine the three of them like they did the Ninja Turtles. Um, so having Rash's entire team with him would be fun. But other than that, I think he's okay to stay out. Next is Jack and Daxter. And I don't know too much about this series. I think they're cool enough. I think you could have some cool movesets, kind of throw the guy on the back um, around the stage and stuff. But I think if you were going to take a PlayStation mascot, I don't think they would be the ones you choose. And since they are very similar to Ratchet and Clank, who are much more popular, I think they would probably go with them first. But which would be probably better just because of the vast majority of weapons that they have. But either way, not a bad choice. I just don't see it being very likely. Next is Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, or just the Horizon series in general. And I think this is fairly likely. I think she fits in the Injustice world very well. I only wonder is like, would they put her in before Laura Croft, who is much more popular for PlayStation? I could see it just because they think Sony and PlayStation right now are treating Horizon like it's the next big thing, like it's the craziest thing ever. We've had like, including spin-offs and random remasters and whatever, we've had like 5 games in the last couple of years. So I think it could definitely happen, but I think there are just other PlayStation characters that are more popular that would fit better in the game. Another PlayStation character is Cole McGrath, and I think he would be very fun, but he's very similar to Alex Mercer in that he has not done anything in the past 10 years. And same, like him and Alex, the only thing they've ever done in the past 10 years is the whole death battle thing, which kind of helped their popularity a bit, I guess. But even then, they're not that popular and they don't have that many powers that would be really, or they have powers that would make them fun in the game, but they don't really have notoriety to be able to put in here. Next is Kratos, and I wouldn't be against him being in this game. I'd like him to be, especially if you wanted to put Lara Croft or someone else who would be another PlayStation mascot for them to fight each other in this game. But I think he fits much better into Mortal Kombat as we've seen before. Now, if we were going to see him again in another Realm game, I'd rather than wait for that. Next is Samus from the Metroid series. And I think if Nintendo was ever going to license out a character for this, Injustice or even Mortal Kombat, it would have to be someone from the Metroid series because it is easily their darkest and most mature franchise that has had more than one game. Um, and even then, it's not that bad. The most mature game they have is only rated teen. That would be like what, Prime 3 or something. So I think there are a lot of moves that Samus could have and would fit very well into this game. But I still don't see it happening. Same with the next one being Fox. I don't, from Star Fox. I think he could fit well into the game, had lots of moves, but Nintendo would never let him play in someone else's sandbox. Another one is Heihachi. I think that could be very cool, but I think between him, Kazuya, and Jin, who are the 3 main characters in Tekken, I think he would probably be the last on the list. Um, just because Kazuya is very popular because of Smash, Jin is like the main character, and then Heihachi um, is awesome. Everyone loves Heihachi, but he hasn't really had that much notoriety outside its own franchise. So I would love to see him in here, but Kazuya would just fit so much better because of the vast majority of demon moves and things like that he can do, as we've seen in Smash Bros. Already. So I think with Injustice being much more of a casual game because of the DC label on it, it's much more of a casual thing that people will check out. So they're gonna go with they would go with the most popular character that they see from Tekken, that being Kazuya because he was in Smash Bros. So not a bad pick, it's just not the one I think they'd go with if they were gonna have a Tekken rep. Next is Bayonetta, and this one's kind of odd because I'm not sure how much Nintendo has. I'm pretty sure he's a Nintendo exclusive character, but I could be wrong about that. She may be on other things. She would definitely fit Injustice well. I wouldn't go as far to say Mortal Kombat, but she definitely fit Injustice well. And if you were going to have her and Dante in this game, very similar hack and slash type games, could be very fun. Then we have Jenny Wakeman from, I had to look this one up because I didn't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's the character from My Life as a Teenage Robot, which is something I never watched growing up. But she does have a lot of cool moves that she could have, like a jetpack and things like that. The only thing is like, I think the whole age thing is not a problem because one, she's a robot, two, characters like Robin, Starfire, Blue Beetle, Firestorm, all of these characters are also teenagers. But you would have to stretch her out a lot to make her have a normal hitbox. Like, it's not impossible. I could see them doing that for someone like that more than like Chucky, making him tall enough. That would just look weird. So like, it could maybe happen, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like a great idea to me. It would just seems to me like that one thing they did with Shovel Knight in an indie fighter a few years ago. That just looked kind of weird. But if they had to do it to get him in the game, get her in the game, I'd be fine with that. But I don't think they'll do it. Then we have Korra from Avatar. I actually see this as pretty likely, either her or Aang. I wouldn't really care either way. I think Aang is a little more, not popular, but like a little more well known because he's the poster boy for the Avatar franchise, and he has a bow staff, which Korra does not. So that's a little more unique. But either way, I think these two would be not incredibly likely, but something that could definitely be done because the TMNT are owned by Paramount and Nickelodeon. So having another Nickelodeon character in there is not that insane. So I think they could definitely do it. Similar to them, we have Captain Planet, and this is one where they're owned by Nickelodeon, so it wouldn't be too hard to get. And he has some cool powers that you can use, but he hasn't really done anything in the last long time. So I don't think it's really necessary. Then we have Omni-Man. I don't think he'll be in this game. They just put him in Mortal Kombat 1, and they have not repeated a guest character in either franchise yet, let alone one from like the previous game. The only reason I could see them doing it is like the Amazon is like they signed a deal with J.K. Simmons to have him in the next couple of NetherRealm games, and that's like his only notable superhero character. So maybe they do it, but I mean I don't know. That's just my thinking. But if they were gonna add invincible characters, it would have to be Mark, Adam Eve, and maybe even Rexplode before you did um, Omni-Man again. Then we have Scooby-Doo. This one's not happening. I could see Shaggy just because he's shaped like a human, but Scooby-Doo is not going to happen. If they made him stand up on 2 feet and do the whole funny boxing stance, I could maybe see it. But even then, I just think it's too goofy for DC, personally. I'm all for goofy guest fighters, but just a dog is just kind of too weird, even for DC standards, personally. Next, we have a character named Ravy from Black Lagoon, and originally, before I looked this character up, I thought it was like the helpless woman from the creature from the Black Lagoon movie, the old Universal Monsters movie. I was like, oh, why would you put her in there when you get the Universal Monsters? They're free, they're public domain and all that. But when I actually looked up who it was, it's like, oh, okay, this is someone completely different. So it's like, that's interesting. It's not a very popular or not a very well-known franchise, so probably not going to get in there, but it's just something interesting to note. Then we have Deku from My Hero Academia, and I think that he is a good choice, and honestly, he would fit better into the superhero world, or DC world, than even Goku, I would say, just because Goku can beat anyone except Superman in that world. But there was a time for an anime franchise, anime TV show, movie franchise, to be put into other fighting games. Dragon Ball would have to be the first one. It's easily the most popular, recognizable. That has to be the first one to jump into fighting games outside of their own, like as a guest character. So I don't think My Hero is going to be the one to do it. Even though Deku, it would be a great choice to be put in the game. Then we have a character named Fire Breather, and I actually went and looked this guy up because I didn't know who it was. He is from an old comic series, and I think he could be a cool idea. He's like similar to Firestorm, but he's also made of lava. So having some lava traps and lava powers could be cool. I see it similar to like Hellboy or The Mask, where it's like people know about him. There was a TV show on Cartoon Network and things like that, or something like that, to where NetherRealm would definitely consider it, but I don't know if they would actually go for it. So it's a good deep cut. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be fun. I don't know how likely it is. Then we have Q from Star Trek. I know nothing about Star Trek, so I'm just gonna move on. Then we have the Ghostbusters. I actually did not think about this when I was writing my script for the last video on the weird character stuff. So I think the Ghostbusters would actually be a really cool idea. I have not watched the movies. I want to watch them, but I think having another set of four characters, but like having another set of four characters like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would be very fun. I don't know if you necessarily need all four. I don't know if they're all like extremely different, like the TMNT, where they all use different weapons. If they are, you could. If not, I would just say go with one guy to represent all four and maybe call them out every now and then, like the cameo system in Mortal Kombat 1. Maybe have Dan Aykroyd be the main character. I don't know who's the main character in that movie, but that's just an idea. Then we have Mr. Og from the TMNT. He's kind of like a cartoony character inside a non-cartoony world, so to speak. So I think he's cool, but I think someone like The Mask would be more likely if they're going to go with a real-life cartoon type character. Then we have Optimus Prime, and I would love that for this to happen. I love the Transformers, and I would be perfectly fine if they wanted to just shrink him enough to where he's like slightly taller than Bane and him fit in this game, and licensing would not be that big a deal. But I think there'd just be too many people who would be mad that you made him shorter, so I don't think they would actually do it. Then we have Akuma from Street Fighter, and I would love to see Akuma in this game, but I think he's much more likely for Mortal Kombat because he is like the big crazy villain. Bison is as well, but he's more of like a dictator, like haha super villain, not like a mean takes people out type of villain. So I think Akuma's much more likely for that. But for this game, I think Ryu's much more likely. I don't think they'd go with Akuma first. So I think Ryu would be a better choice. Then we have Saitama from One Punch Man. I would really like to see how they would do him in this type of game. He could technically work in Mortal Kombat, but the most people who does the whole one punch blow their head off type of thing is mostly for like big monsters and stuff from the few bits of the show I've seen. He's not like a bad guy where he'd do that a lot. So I don't think that would happen. But again, if there was one anime to be converted from just TV show into guest characters in fighting games, it's going to be Dragon Ball first, rather than My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Injusitce Kaisen, and this one, One Punch Man. I just don't think it's going to happen. And then finally we have Dante, another Capcom fighter. I think he's very likely. He could definitely get in here. Any Capcom character would always be more likely in this than Mortal Kombat. But if you're like purely going off of what they do in their game, Dante would definitely fit better in Mortal Kombat. So that's my list. What do you all think? Are my opinions based or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below and I'll see you all next time.